We will come to order. I'll call this meeting to order. If the city clerk would call the roll.
Councilmember San Antonio?
Present.
Councilmember Schaefer?
Here.
Councilmember O'Hara is running late, so he is absent at the moment. Deputy Mayor Lyons is absent, and Mayor Ayler.
Here.
Record will show that all members are present with the exception of Councilmembers O'Hara and Deputy Mayor Lyons.
Okay, and we have one item on this special meeting agenda tonight. It is discussion and direction of the city fiscal year 2025 and 26 operating and capital improvement budgets. And the contact person is Director of Finance and City Treasurer Gallup. And with that, we'll start with the staff report.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. With me this afternoon is Director of Engineering Jill Bankston and Finance Manager Kelly Sanderson. Staff schedules budget workshops each fiscal year prior to introducing the new proposed budget in order to present an overview of the preliminary operating budget, give the community an opportunity to provide feedback, and receive council direction. As I move through the presentation slides, please feel free to stop me if you have any clarifying questions. Staff will be providing a financial overview that includes the projected fund balance at the end of the current fiscal year, the projected operating budget for next fiscal year, and the projected fund balance available for new operating requests and capital projects. Staff has also provided the engineering capital projects by status, otherwise known as the donut chart, and will be submitting projects for council consideration. The general fund is our largest, most discretionary fund and the focus of our presentation tonight. As staff's prepared the proposed preliminary budget, we ensured that revenues exceeded expenditures. Thus, we have a balanced budget to propose. In addition, the city has ensured that our revenues are still fully funded at policy levels, meaning the contingency reserve is 20% of our operating budget, and we also have a budget stabilization reserve that is 2% of our revenue projections. The personnel budget honors negotiated labor contracts and meets all CalPERS pension obligations. Based on council's direction, staff will identify and propose funding for priority projects. Staff is currently projecting current year-end funding balance of $6.5 million that is unassigned at the moment and is available for CIP projects and also operating expenditures. Included is the $6.9 million mid-year unassigned fund balance, but also council actions through March 17th, 2025. Additionally, staff has included the $400,000 placeholder for the city's match for the HSIP grant. What the fund balance does not include as of the moment is $350,000 for the city's match for Sanday grant application that was approved on March 19th, 2025. And also the $2.6 million FEMA reimbursement that could be available next fiscal year. It's still pending final review status by FEMA.
And does that take like legislative action, or what does it take to fund that? If what's the likelihood, I guess? Do we know yet?
Yeah, we're pretty certain it's reached. It's gone through environmental review, and it's based on the last correspondence on March 18th. It's in final review status. It's been our experience that FEMA hasn't withdrawn reimbursements at this stage, although anything could happen. But I think we're pretty confident that that we will receive $2.6 million of, I think the original request might have been 3.5, but FEMA doesn't fully fund the 100% of our request, but the 2.6 is in that final review status.
Thank you.
Director of Finance Gallup, the other item that is not included in this fund balance was the $500,000 payment to PERS. We brought that forward in mid-year. However, council wanted to consider either paying that or more. So I do want to let you know that that $500,000 is not accounted for in that fund balance since we don't have a decision from council yet. So thank you.
And staff is currently preparing a pension analysis to determine what an appropriate amount of funding is based on a proposed pension policy, which would give you kind of a target to work for rather than a fixed amount of $500,000. So some years, depending on what the target is, for example, 80% staff will come with that recommendation based on an outlook for unfunded liability.
Okay.
The preliminary proposed budget anticipates $113.2 million in revenue, which represents a 4.6 increase from the current fiscal year. Combined property and sales tax constitutes 77% or $87 million of the general fund budget, with charges for services ranking third at $11.2 million and transient occupancy tax at fourth with $5.6 million. Other taxes include franchise and excise taxes, for example, our cannabis tax. And other revenues typically include minor revenues such as fines and collections and also intergovernmental payments. Of the $113.2 million that staff is anticipating in projected revenue, $97.1 million or 86% originates from taxes. As I mentioned, property tax and sales tax represent the largest amount of tax that the city collects, and along with transient occupancy tax, franchise tax, and then some of those smaller taxes that I mentioned. Of that $71 million that's collected for property tax, for each dollar paid by property owners, 24 cents on that dollar goes to the Encinitas General Fund. Of that 24 cents, 15 cents of that dollar is used for public safety, which it totals $45.4 million, leaving 9 cents on the dollar for all operations and capital improvement projects. The preliminary proposed budget anticipates $105 million in expenditures, which is a 3.6% increase from the current fiscal year. As I mentioned, public safety accounts for the largest portion of the budget, which is 43%, followed by parks, recreation and cultural arts, development services, public works, and engineering and non-departmental. Actually, we have a grouped category which includes some of our smaller departments. As you see, the 6 are finance, city manager's office, city clerk, human resources, the city attorney's office, and the city council's budget. And I should say non-departmental includes those expenditure items that aren't specific to a particular department, such as our payments for our pension liability to CalPERS. This chart represents our expenditures by category, with personnel represented the largest percent at 54%. It's important to mention this budget isn't proposing additional FTE. It is FTE count remains at 249.4. The second largest is for law enforcement, contracts and services for non-law enforcement, which includes contracts for building inspection services, park maintenance, several other activities that we contract out for. Law enforcement represents 19%, and materials and supplies 2%, and that includes fuel, field supplies for operations such as Public Works and the fire department and other smaller purchases.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah, on the personnel, is that our 250 roughly FTE? Is that, so it's firefighters would be included in that number?
Yes.
And then any personnel here. But does it include contractors of any type?
It does not. It does not. And it also excludes the San Diego Water District, which is separate from this budget.
It's a separate enterprise from this, yeah.
Exactly. With that, I would like to turn the presentation over to our city manager, Jennifer Campbell.
Thank you, Director Gallup. So this year, we do have 2 additional operations and maintenance requests. The first one is for a deputy fire marshal. At the quarterly report, the fire chief basically showed a slide of how many permits we are now having to review. It is literally doubled, if not more, and we have remained the same with staff, so we've had 6. So this would be to provide another deputy fire marshal to fire prevention. In return, we have been looking at some of the other services that we do provide here in the city, and we budgeted for a second homeless solutions coordinator. We only had that person on for a couple months. That position has since been vacant. Looking at the resources that we have, we also added another HOPE team last year as well. So we now have 2 HOPE teams. We have 1 homeless solutions coordinator. We also get services from county and the PATH program. So in turn, what we would like to do is to eliminate the second homeless solutions coordinator position for the deputy fire marshal. So we would not be increasing FTEs. We would be at the same number of FTEs. And actually, the salary is basically almost an even swap. We actually save a little bit of money by eliminating the coordinator position and having a deputy fire marshal. The second ask is for a new vehicle for the fire chief. The fire chief was nice enough to delay the vehicle purchase last year, and that was very nice of Chief Gordon to do that. However, we do need that vehicle for this year. That $322,000 is actually in the budget as of right now. We were hoping that council would be good with that since one was a swap and the other is a necessary vehicle. So that is currently budgeted in our operations and maintenance, so it's not another ask after that. We have heard about adding law enforcement. So I did get some numbers from Captain Watts. Now, this is not included in the budget, so this would need to be an additional amount that would be added. There were 2 options for extra law enforcement with traffic. One was an actual traffic deputy, and that would be a person that would actually have the vehicle. One of the things that Captain Watts does like about that is the fact that they could do DUI enforcement. Some of the drawbacks to a motorcycle deputy is the fact that can't work in the rain, doesn't do nights, motor vehicle maintenance and things like that. So when we first get a new deputy on board, we have some one-time costs. So this is a one-time cost of $458,000 for the traffic deputy, which would include the car. The $408 is for a motorcycle deputy. I did go ahead and look. Once we get through the one-time costs, the ongoing cost of the motor deputy would be $347,755. And the ongoing cost of the motorcycle deputy would be $344,129. So very little difference. That would be the ongoing cost that would have to be budgeted after fiscal year 25-26. So those are basically the 2, those are some of the O&M requests for consideration. As I said, the first 2 are already planned for in the budget, and the second one would need to be added as well.
So, okay, going down the list from the top, the one FTE is really a net 0 and should be no change. The new vehicle, have we already reserved the 143? We have it in a reserve fund, or do we have to allocate that? But it's in the budget from the current year.
Yes, that's correct.
Which part of that was correct?
Oh,
Both?
sorry. It is carved out for next fiscal year.
Since we haven't adopted next fiscal year, was it a carryover from this fiscal year as far as having it in a reserve fund for the vehicle?
Oh, excuse me. It is a new ad. It would be a new ad.
So it would be part of the unassigned general fund?
Exactly. Yes.
So that's that. I want to make sure.
Yeah, so it would be new funding, hopefully with council's approval. We already added it, though. It's accounted for in the O&M already. So if we didn't do it, you would have another 143,000.
We can't buy him a used car. No, he's going to be up here killing me in a minute. Okay, moving on to the law enforcement. So that's a new ad. Am I actually looking at a total of, let's say, 347 plus 458 for fiscal year 25, 26?
No, I'll take that one. This would be the cost. This is the cost for the first year. This would be 25, 26, because this
Okay.
has the startup.
And then the future
After
cost.
that would be
Okay.
the 347 or the 344.
So
Yes.
the startup is the 110,000 or so difference between the annual and the startup
It
year.
is. It's the purchase of the vehicle, so either the motorcycle or the car, and then there is like 29,000 in startup. So you're right.
Okay, cool. So the only thing we have to look for in this budget is the 458, knowing we've burdened the future budgets. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Thank you. So annually, one of the components of the budget is for debt transfers for bond issuance for capital infrastructure. We're projecting a transfer of $5.5 million for a variety of capital projects for financing of various bonds. And the city's debt service payment is projected to be $5.5 million. And what this graph represents is the timing of when those particular bonds will be paid off, and also the iBank loan. In 13 years, the city will see a significant drop in debt service payments. 6 years from now, the 2017 park bonds will be paid off, and that represents 1.1 million of the 5.5 million. The following year after that, the 2013 park bonds will be paid off at 500,000. A little bit later, we're expecting the library bonds to be paid off. That's 1.1 million in fiscal year 37-38. And the following year, the iBank loan for streetscape will be paid off at 1.6 million.
So a couple of questions on this sheet. This is, and I love this sheet. This really keeps my eye on the ball. The 5.5, well, the 5.5, didn't that used to be 5.4? And I thought with some refinancing, we ended up at 5.32.
Yeah,
And my only question is, do we have any variable interest rate bonding that would cause this number to ever go up in the future?
no, it's actually declining. It should be declining in terms of interest rates.
Okay, so the 5 point, whatever, 5.5, 5.4, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Next question is, to maintain our AAA plus bond rating, we have typically said in the past 6% of our general fund revenue, which depending on, and our general fund revenue is, thanks to Prop 13 and our property values, is going up. How much did general fund revenue go up last year to this year?
Oh,
In
that-
percentage would be ideal.
Yeah, that was projected at 5.1%.
5.1, great. And so where would 6%, where would the limit of our bonding capacity be right now to you still maintain our AAA rating? I'm not proposing we use it. I just want to know how far under the limit, because each year we get further under that limit. And as we get into talking about fire stations in particular, I think we want to know, do we have to wait all the way until 2031, or will we have any borrowing capacity prior to that, maybe to buy land for fire stations?
Yeah, our last discussion with our consultant, we took a look at that, and I think they arrived at 13.1 million as just to be able to maintain our existing rating, safely account for any fluctuations, and that was prior to this fiscal year budget. But we can revisit that, and as far as
13.1
yeah, as
million?
far as capacity.
Yeah, but we're at 5.5?
Oh, no, this was in terms of borrowing capacity. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that work back to debt service? How much debt service?
Yeah.
Where, because the 5.5 has been for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm sure we've gone up 5% or more per year.
Yeah.
In property value and property tax. So the question is, and then if we continue that over the next couple of years, we're each time going up. And I just want to
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
understand, I know there, we don't want to go right up to the limit. I understand that. I'm very conservative, and I think probably the others are, and past councils have been, and we want to continue that. But I just want to know where we need, where is that warning track?
Yeah. Yeah, we
So-
could certainly revisit that and determine that with our bond consultant and see.
Yeah, and
look
that'd
at-
be something for the next budget meeting, so.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, in summary, we talked about available fund balance of that, what was it, over 6 million that we currently have. Our proposed budget represents 8.2 million excess revenue over expenditures, but then with that, we do have operating transfers out, which include our internal service funds, many of those that we do transfer to from the general fund, which represents 2.4 million. The 5.5 million in debt service transfers that we spoke about, and also positive 1.7 million in capital transfers, which mostly is the general fund share of gas tax for operating expenses. So this budget, we foresee a net increase to fund balance of 2.1 million. Coupled with the existing 6.5 million, that leaves 8.5 million available for appropriation.
And then question on the transfers in and out. I think you answered the capital transfers are primarily the general fund share of the gas tax
Yes.
for operations. What primarily comprises the operating transfers and the debt service transfers?
So, yeah, the debt service is to pay off, principal and interest on those bonds, that 5.5 million. Operating transfers are to our internal service funds, mostly like our risk management fund, vehicle maintenance funds, fleet replacement. There are some transfers to lighting and landscape districts to maintain a positive fund balance there, so.
Okay, I should have recognized the 5.5. I didn't
Yeah.
realize. So the 2.4, is there a vehicle, is there a fire engine in that? Or, how much of that is fleet replacement?
Yeah, it is mostly for fleet operations, for mechanics, repairs. We did not, we do have a fund balance in the fire replacement for the lease payments, since we've decided to lease fire engines. So there is a balance available to do that. So presently, we don't have a transfer scheduled for that, since we did appropriate funds previously for vehicle replace and fleet replacement.
And then do the lease payments go back into the 5.5 million, or they're separate, right?
They're we separate them out.
Okay.
For the
Okay.
purposes of differentiating these transfers.
Sounds good.
Yeah. If there aren't any questions, I'd like to turn the presentation over to our Director of Engineering, Jill Bankston.
Thanks, Tom. So I'm going to provide a little bit of information about the donut chart that was included in the presentation and is available over here in case anybody in the audience would like to pick it up. So this is a table of the active engineering capital projects, and they're ordered by status. So what we did to come up with the draft list you see is we took last year's donut chart, and we removed the projects that we have already completed. We completed 6 in the last fiscal year. And then we have 5 more that are currently in construction, but will wrap up before the end of the fiscal year. So we removed those, and then we took all the remaining projects and moved them forward to this next draft, and then reordered them based on status again. So the top couple projects are currently in construction, and then starting with that third line down, those are the ones that will start construction soon, and so on and so forth. So the key you'll see at the top, so if you have a full green circle, that means that that phase is completed. If you have a donut, a green donut, that means it's funded but not yet complete. The square that's half red and white is partially funded, and then the red square is unfunded. So we took each of our capital projects and we split them kind of into 3 main phases. That first column with the symbols in it is whether we've done a study or an initial evaluation. Second column is design, and the third column is construction. So after we hear feedback from this council on what projects they'd like to add or remove from this list, we will update the list and bring forward a final list with budget adoption in June, and then we'll re-letter the list. So again, this isn't in any kind of priority order, it's in a construction status order.
Cool. And question about, I notice you have City Hall parking lot repair, but you don't have you have a blank, not a partially funded, not a not funded, not.
It's going to council tonight, so we don't know. If you approve it, then it'll get a donut.
But unless we take positive action tonight, it would be considered not funded.
Correct.
And I assume, what a temporary fire station number 1. We have a dollar number for the parking lot. Do we have a current dollar estimate for the temporary fire station 1?
We're expecting to get our final design in the next couple weeks, and then probably early May, we'll bring forward a request to fund the construction phase.
Do we have any idea? Can you bound that?
Yeah, we expect it to be somewhere between 1.6, 1.9 million.
Okay. Okay, great. Anything else?
That's it.
That's it? Okay.
Wait, we've got a couple more slides.
Oh, we have more slides. Oh, sorry. Let me know.
Sorry, that was it for me.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. May need Jill on this one as well. What councils have done in the past is these are, the donut chart represents usually rather large projects, millions and millions of dollars, and they're in different statuses. The other thing we've done is in our capital improvement program is we generally have items that are done every year. Obviously, we have new council members, new thoughts, new vision. So what we wanted to just show you was some of the things that have been approved in past and why we kind of need them. And we also put on the list some of the things we've heard. We had our strategic plan meeting on the 24th and 25th of February. We also had our objective meeting just this week to talk about some areas of interest. So I just wanted to kind of run through these a little bit. One of the items we've funded in the past was ADA curb ramp at about $50,000 a year, and that's obviously to make sure that our sidewalks and streets are ADA accessible. Adaptive signal timing, that's one of the items we've kind of heard in the last couple months. We do currently have our beach stair access for Swami's actually budgeted. It's $550. Now, it's not funded, but it was actually planned. Every 5 years, we usually do a beach stair audits of all of our beach accesses. I will tell you that this beach stair audit was done when I was director, which was a long time ago, and it's finally coming due. And if I recall, Swami's was rated at either good or fair, and that was several years ago. So these are one of the items that we do like to try to stay on top of. As you know, we've had some failure at Stone Steps and then had to do emergency repairs. So we do try to plan for this. General mobility, we've usually funded at about $300,000. That's everything from any type of bike lane, striping, crosswalk, stop sign, anything that might help with traffic calming or mobility. Habitat stewardship, that is areas of our open space we take care of. Probably there's about 9 or 10 on the list, so this is the continuation and funding of that program. We put on here L7 Parksite. As we had spoken about before, we do have mitigation fees that can be used for park development and acquisition. I did ask Director Gallup what we look like we would finish the year with, and it looks like we're going to finish the year with about $4 million in that mitigation fund, and those can only be used for park acquisition and development. It cannot be used for general fund. Next up is park improvements. Again, a little bit of information on this and some experience. Council passed a resolution many years ago that cell tower lease revenue that is at all of the parks in the community center would go to park improvements. So again, this is earmarked, but it would still have to be budgeted. So the 245 is not appropriated yet. The safe routes to school, again, that's to help the kids here in Encinitas get to and from school in a safe manner. We have heard the desire to possibly put more money into pavement, so we have that down with a TBD. We've also heard storm drain, line the existing corrugated metal pipe so that we can reduce our failures and make sure that we have our metal pipe line so that they'll last longer. Also, we do have a storm drain repair plan or master plan that we would like to accomplish. Right now, we were able to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to kind of do a first phase of this, which was great, and that was free of charge. However, we do need to probably move into the second phase. There would be a 50-50 share, so that would be great. However, our share would probably be about $450,000 of that master plan. And then lastly, we have generally funded storm drain repair at $250. We did up it 1 year to $500. So it just, again, depends on, the failures that we have.
No, the next year we went to zero.
We did go to zero, and then, and thank you, at mid-year, we went ahead and funded that again. So just to give you an idea, as we talked about a couple things. So we have that $8.5 million. So if we go ahead and we decide to earmark $350 for the possible grants that we may get, which was Trail 82 and the La Costa Ped Path, if we decide to fund the traffic deputy with the car at $458, if we do decide to go forward with the Swami's Beach Stair access, and I was told today that apparently D Street may bump Swami's because it's not doing well and being undermined, but we don't have any costs for that yet. That's the $550. Then the $245 for the park improvements, which again is offset by the cell tower lease revenue. And then also, depending on if we do the I'll save the PERS payment, but if we do decide to do those programmed, just those, not including the ADA curb ramps or the mobility or anything, that would be a total of just over $1.6 million, which then would drop the available funding to just under 6.9. So I did want to just point that out.
So the, on page 18, which ones were not funded? The ADA ramp, which else?
Yeah, that will be up to council discretion. The beach stair was programmed for this upcoming year, but we haven't appropriated, so
It's not a part of the 1.6 million?
That's part of the 1.6. So what's part of that 1.6 would be the beach stair access at the 550 and the park improvements at the 245, along with our grant match and the traffic deputy.
So in the unassigned general fund balance of 8.5, is the 245 included in that unassigned?
No, that's not. So this would be, so you've got the 8.5, this totals 1.6, so it would then drop your available balance for everything else to just under 6.9.
But I thought the 245 was not included in the, we didn't credit the 8.5, so we shouldn't, it should be sitting in a dedicated fund somewhere that's not general fund, since it was earmarked by resolution, I assume, for this. In other words, is there an extra 245,000 sitting somewhere? No.
No.
So it is in the unassigned general fund then?
Correct.
Okay.
So I just wanted to take that slide. Obviously, if we have any other questions regarding some of the capital improvement programs, we definitely have Jill here for further discussion.
Any other? How many public speakers do we have?
We have 6.
6, perfect. If we're done with staff report, we'll move on to public speakers.
Just one final comment. As I mentioned, there will be a second budget workshop on April 23rd, followed by the formal introduction of the 2025-26 operating capital budget, and on June 11th, adoption of the operating and capital budget.
Great.
And that concludes our presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ready for speakers?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to call you 3 at a time and just remind you have 3 minutes. Diana Nunes, June Hansberger, Bernadette Dillon.
Dear Mayor, and council members, as you deliberate on our city's budget and prioritize capital improvements today, I urge you to evaluate projects not merely by their initial cost, but by their comprehensive return on investment, both financial and communal. The at-grade crossings planned in Northwest Leucadia represent far more than infrastructure expenditures. They embody a critical investment backed by compelling data and overwhelming public support. These crossings address an urgent safety need while simultaneously offering substantial economic opportunities. The many benefits are clear: enhanced safety for residents and visitors, strengthen community cohesion through connected neighborhoods, increase mobility and accessibility for all transportation modes, revitalize business potential along the Northern Highway 101 corridor. By creating more accessible pathways between neighborhoods and our iconic Highway 101, we will naturally stimulate commercial activity in the currently underserved northern corridor. This improved connectivity will generate new business opportunities and increase tax revenues. A true win-win for public safety and our city's financial health. The timeline demands action now. Our diligent city staff successfully submitted the application to the CPUC on March 20th. While the CPUC review takes about 8 to 18 months, we could optimistically receive approval by year's end. Having funds designated now ensures seamless project advancement without costly delays. Remember, this is not a new initiative. Site analysis and design began in 2021, building upon decades of community advocacy. The finish line is finally within sight. Let's ensure we're prepared for success in 2026 by allocating the necessary resources today. Thank you for your foresight and commitment to our community's future. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Mayor and council members. I am here to just express once again the need for Northwest Leucadia. When you look at this document provided by the engineering team, there are quite a lot of projects for Northwest Leucadia. Over the years, for the last 23 years, I have been in this place speaking on behalf of safe mobility for our entire community of Encinitas, but I'd like to just focus quickly on a few projects this afternoon. The Vulcan pedestrian trail was a win, but it needs a lot more improvement. It's a great start. If that could be prioritized, that would service so many people in our community. Additionally, the rail crossing, we have been waiting over 30 years, and we are getting closer, so please prioritize that as well. I would be remiss if I did not bring up the Hygeia roundabout, as I'm sure at least some of you in this room know. For 23 years, Chris Ryan and I, along with a large group of Leucadians, have been advocating for safe mobility down Leucadia Boulevard. Leucadia Boulevard services 15,000 cars a day. I think that calling it the Hygeia Roundabout Project is a misnomer because it is really the Leucadia Boulevard completion project. That project includes putting safe sidewalks along the sides of the road, which we have not had the entire time that this community has been here. Roundabouts transformed Leucadia Boulevard. They made it safe for us to get across at High Metis and transformed how my kids accessed Palecki School. We need one more, and I am begging you to get that prioritized, as I have done for the last 23 years. I also am here to speak about the La Costa trail and path. We need mobility there. Our part of Leucadia has been repeatedly ignored, put aside, and not prioritized for the last 30 years. La Costa Avenue and Leucadia Boulevard are dismal paths for pedestrians, bikes, and cars to get into our town. Cars back up at all the stop signs repeatedly, and we need some help. There are also so many other projects on this list, and I am hoping that maybe, as Mayor Eller said, he would consider a 5-cent sales tax initiative. Maybe that would be one way to please fund some of these projects, because they are all great and there is not enough money to go around. So thank you very much.
And just to clarify, 5 cent or half cent? I think half cent. Thank you. I can see the headlines tomorrow. Not going there. Yeah, thank you.
Following Bernadette Dillon is Scott Campbell, Tony Kranz, and then Christine Schindler.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Bernadette Dillon, and I have lived in Cardiff by the Sea for 30-plus years. And I'm really hoping you will include in the budget this year to remove all the shenanigans on Santa Fe Drive. This is a hot mess. I know it was done to slow down traffic and keep kids safe, but it's not. It is gridlock, it is Pacific Beach, it is New York City at the high time. Nobody can move. Cars are backed up. I relate a story that a young man was trying to back up into a stall. He tried 4 times. Traffic was stopped in all directions. Nobody could get out of the high school. Nobody could get into the high school. Nobody could move forward. And we're all watching this poor kid try and learn how to back up in a stall, where he, on the 4th try, took out his dad's rims on the side of his car, as we could hear the screeching of the car going back against the curb. We need this all removed. This is just, it doesn't work. Bike lanes, perfect. The rest of it's got to go. Those planter boxes got to go. The backup stalls got to go. We have to restore normalcy, because all the traffic is going down the other side streets. It's backing up Ocean Knoll, it's backing up Ada Harris, and you're about to add 51 units, which is a minimum of 102 plus cars to that neighborhood. It is going to be an even bigger hot mess when those 51 units go in. So I'm asking you to please, please remove it. Last week there was a video showed. It was a great video about how great backup parking was. But for those of us who were paying attention, it was a 1-lane road going one direction, quiet, calm little neighborhood, right in front of a business structure. That's not Santa Fe Drive. It's not even close to 101 where there's backup parking. It needs to go. It was a great idea. Keep the bike lanes, but get rid of the rest of it so that we can restore some sanity to Santa Fe Drive before those 51 units come in. That's it. Thank you so much.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Scott Campbell here with Encinitas System Review Panel. Let me have some data. First off, I've heard so many good, positive progress ideas in the last week. I can't even begin to talk about it. So let's go on to the next slide here. So the basics of a lot of these expenditures are roads, water, and parks. This population has been flat. We have gotten tremendous growth in revenue and corresponding growth in expenses. But this just shows some of the basic numbers. And interestingly, we actually have more miles of water mains now than streets. So that's pretty important. So next slide, please. Now, this slide here, it shows staffing increases over time, and there's been a big spike. I don't really have a comment on this if this is good or bad, but it is what it is. And it's something that we should be considering, especially in lieu of the pensions. This is a long-term cost that we will be taking on forever. Those bonds that we talked about, one of those was the Moonlight Beach Tower. It goes to 2045, and I hope that the tower lasts 20 more years. So let's go to the next slide here. Okay, so this is the real slide. There's so much stuff on here. I wanted to compare numbers of revenues and expenses and other things. But fundamentally, you can see the rate and how much growth we've had. Our general fund has been flat. And this doesn't have inflation in it. So, I mean, but absolutely flat. And yet our revenues have almost doubled. So something's been going on there. It's interesting. Public Works hasn't been getting any love. They have had incredible demands placed on them. New parks, new infrastructure all over the place, and yet we haven't been giving them any love in terms of money. We're asking them to do a lot. I think that's something we should be thinking about. Storm drain repair, we all know it's been super flat. I think I heard more than 4X, I think is what I heard earlier today, or last week. Now, I've heard some other stuff about reviewing projects, and I'll use Streetscape as an example. Streetscape, I think Section A, Section B, we have the parking pods, which is interesting because they're on loan for us from the NCTD. What you have there is you have hard cement right next to soft dirt, and what that does is something that's going to give. The soft material will give every time. And all of those entrances, including the ones like where the lady got hit, have 6 or 8 inch ruts. I'm not even calling them potholes or ruts. Maybe we can get those filled in. But this is part of the review process of old projects. Thank you.
Good evening. Quick follow-up to Scott's comments. The only sections of the rail corridor that have parking are the ones with the formal pods. The unfortunately nearest Leucadia Boulevard is not an official parking lot. So it's unfortunate that we didn't have the money at the time to expand the parking pods in the rail corridor because the opportunity would be excellent and safety would be enhanced significantly. Welcome to budgeting. City of Encinitas has historically had a very long list of capital projects and other needs that was much greater than the resources available. We attempted in 2024 to address that by raising revenue. Unfortunately, we were not successful. So you guys get the challenge again of figuring out where to spend not enough money on very needed projects. And so I also would like to follow up with Diana Nunez's comments about the importance of the at-grade crossings and the need to make sure that money is available once the CPUC approves it. I know that Pete is likely to advocate strongly for quiet zones, which I do too. It's $12+ million. Not in the cards, I don't see. In the meantime, I also want to ask that you fund money for Q3 consultancy for stormwater issues. Remember that Prop 4 passed statewide. There's $10 billion available for stormwater facilities that include the recycling of water. And I think there are a number of opportunities that the city could use to take advantage of that. I would love to see the cities partner with the EUSD and put underground water storage facilities at Pollock East Central School when they reconstruct that school in the next couple of years. Great opportunities there. Finally, I would like to point out that I was here with June, didn't know her, but I got involved here at City Hall advocating for the 3 roundabouts on Leucadia Boulevard. And it was very disappointing to watch the conversation about the grant money and how unenthusiastic Mayor Ehlers was, given the fact that he had committed when we emptied the bucket to putting the money back in. There was an opportunity for $3.5 million from Sandag that you decided you were going to pass up. You weren't even going to attempt to apply for that. I was disappointed you had no clue the history of the roundabout that's missing. The city needs to follow through finally and get that built. I tried year after year to make that happen. There were always other things that were much more important.
Yep.
Christine Schindler, East Encinitas. I wish I could be as prepared as Diana Nunez. I'm just going to be all over the place. I never prepare my remarks. So here's the next ride. The donut chart, whenever I see this, I'm just amazed at how much we want to do, how much we need to do, how many grants we've gotten. So kudos for staff for being successful getting the HSIP grants and other grants. But clearly there's a lot of gaps and there's a lot that's a big red box, not yet under construction. I think the best thing to say is I agree with all the comments that Diana shared. I agree with June. There's a lot of need in Leucadia, La Costa. I want to see that's included, and there's a plan moving forward to improve that corridor. I'm in East Encinitas, and we have such an opportunity on El Camino Real, Manchester, to transform that corridor so it's not so car-centric. We have connection now that's very important, east-west, north-south with the NCC build. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. We have plenty of pavement. I don't see that anywhere here, so certainly I want to advocate for that. And we have a stakeholders group with a lot of support along that corridor to see a separated Class 1 facility go in, which would be multi-use for walking, biking, running, all of that. I also want to see El Camino Real specific plan continue and for the business corridor to be transformed, to be more modern, more space making, more housing, multi-use with businesses. You know, I appreciate the money invested in open space and restoring habitat, preserving habitat. I don't even know what to say because there's just so much need and only so much money. The amounts that were shared for FTEs, for sheriff and law enforcement and fire, they're just shocking, but I know that that's an important part of our budget and something that we have to support. In my closing 30 seconds, I cheer you on. I appreciate that our former mayor is here, leaning in, engaged, and still, of course, cares greatly for his community. And I thank you for your efforts. It's not an easy job, so.
That does conclude speakers.
Okay, so we will move on to deliberation and comments. Anybody lacking? I'll hop in. You'll hear my state of the city if you didn't get to listen to it, and so I made some of the points there too. But I can hit a quick summary right now if that'll help you. So and plug in if you're punch in if you want to speak next. I've got a list, and I'm going to build off what I'll say in the 6 o'clock meeting when I repeat the State of the City address. But there are several very high priority issues to me, and basic infrastructure is right up there. And so I could see us allocating about $1 million of general fund over and above what we get in Transnet, SP1, and HUTA funding, because our PCI is dropping continuously and has been for probably 8 or 9 years at least. And so I would put $1 million there. Storm drain. I know right now I think we have the potential to put $250 in for just the repair, but I actually want to put money straight to relining. Director Bankston has told me that it's somewhere around $5 million necessary spread over some number of years. So whether we, the $250,000 we have been putting in has been going mostly to spot repair, not to proactive relining. I think we need to put in $1 million there of general fund in order to go into, to get ahead of the curve. 5 years, we should be approximately ahead of 5 or 6 years. I'll throw an extra year because of inflation and whatnot. We should be able to get most of our our storm drains, our corrugated metal storm drains that are rusting and slowly collapsing, and we see the negative effect. So 5 years of that, about $1 million. So there's $2 million out of the roughly 8.5. Leucadia flooding. This is a big one that if we would be the first real significant commitment if we started putting big numbers in here, and it has to be $5 million. We can go for grants, but I think like a lot of these projects, we need to commit some money up front here. Now, why $5 million? Why now? Because the Vulcan South pipe would take the water from Orpheus and from Union, and it would route it south into the Moonlight Beach. And that's roughly, I want to say 5.1 million or somewhere. It was 5 and change. So that would be a good first start. That would eliminate 1 or 2 pumps, maybe more, depending on how much we offload the downstream on the west side. But today, with the sluice gate going underneath the tracks, we're putting a load from that south, I call it South Vulcan area. And Tom Ryan, our consultant on there, agrees. Which brings me, I've got a couple of small items. One would be Q3. I think Mayor Kranz suggested we put money into that. I would suggest again this year we allocate $50,000, relatively modest number. His advice, he is the Q3, and Tom Ryan have been the rudder in the water. He is the one who understands our hydrology. He did the blueprint for our master plan to fix the Q3 consulting report. He wrote it. And so keeping him on board for a relatively modest amount to help guide our engineering staff, I think is money well spent. Likewise, I'm going to skip forward. I think we have an opportunity, and there were some new SANDAG opportunities for beach sand replenishment. It's the 3rd cycle. I think we could use a similar kind of help there. And I've been talking with Kathy Weldon, who used to work here and was really the architect of our beach sand replenishment. I think we should allocate $50,000 for her consulting help, because she knows our city inside out, and she's available to consult part-time. This is not a big dollar item, but same kind of rudder in the water, make progress, and she knows how to tell us what to do. So let me continue on. So storm drain refurbishment, I talked about the flooding, the traffic enforcement, the 400 and some odd thousand for another at least 1 unit. I'm trying to think, what did the Traffic Commission recommend? Maybe June knows, probably. They recommended increasing for 2, right? Yeah, so it would be double that number. So is that true? Was it true?
Yes, they recommended a pair of additional officers.
Yeah, and I think tonight what'll happen is we'll probably go a little over the 8.5 million, hopefully not way over, and then we can figure out how to pare it back. So I would go with the 2.
Mayor, members of council, what we envisioned is, obviously this is the first workshop. We do have several new council members, so that's why we wanted to kind of go over budgeting 101 for government. What we could definitely do next time at the April 23rd, last year we had a pretty cool budget calculator, and as items were put up there, we showed your balance, and then as you started allocating, the balance went down and down till you got to what you can spend. So the idea was, since this is new and a lot of projects are being introduced, great to have comments tonight, and we can maybe start populating a little bit. But what we would do on April 23rd is get the projects in and show you where you rank, and then voting and to see what the majority of council would like.
Okay. And I think Fire Station 1, the temporary Fire Station 1 has to be in there, and that sounds like it's 1.6 to 1.9 million. I don't know that we have much of a choice there.
Yes, I think we have most of that funding available in our facilities funds. So that wouldn't necessarily be a new ask for all of it.
Yeah, and it's lower than we're trying to come in at a 1.6, so it's not 1.9.
Okay, well, they said 1.6, 1.9, yeah. But if it's already in the budget, But I just want to get the laundry list out there of where I'm going and what I've been thinking, and hopefully I have some support here, a lot of support. I want to go next to the design cost of the Vulcan Ped Path. And I think we need that in order, we saw that during the last meeting, where we need that in order to get funding for it. And then, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't include at-grade crossings and quiet zones. And I'm not sure what the funding necessary for fiscal year 25 and 26 is to keep the ball moving as fast as we can. I don't know that we need to have the full, 12 million, and I forget the other number. So
for the quiet zone, we can do a phased approach with that. And hopefully we can start to phase it out with over 2 to 3 years to do to do both, with the idea of, if we get one of these grants, doing it sooner, and then taking that money and putting it towards another project on this list.
yeah, but I consider that basic infrastructure. So I think that is my critical list, and that probably chews up a lot of that 8.5, if not all of it. So depending on how we plug in, how much money we need to plug in to keep quiet zones and to keep at-grade crossings moving forward quickly. And Hygeia, I would love to throw Hygeia in there, but to me, it comes down to what's the choice for Leucadia? Hygeia roundabout, at-grade crossings, or quiet zone? And the at-grade crossings and quiet zone just strike me as critical now. I mean, every time I'm standing down there and the train goes by, it's loud. I mean, you have to pause everything you're doing, right? And the at-grade crossing, we want to make it safe, because we're going to lose people crossing that fence and doing it illegally. So,
Yeah, and I think what we saw with Hygeia was that the roundabout cost was not completely covered by not even close to covered by the grant, even if we took 1.2 million off, I believe. And that seems to be the fundamental for the 10 years that the previous council was here. And they pushed it back and kept pushing it back and kept pushing it back, pretty much for the same reason, or they've moved the money elsewhere. But in this case, it's currently paused because of that.
yeah. And so I know I said when practical and feasible, I would support it. I will. But it's because I really want to get that sidewalk on the south side to the east of Hygeia. That really needs to go in. Every time I drive by there and I see people walking on the pavement, it's just an accident waiting to happen. So, but as I think former Mayor Cran said, been trying for a long time and it just hasn't gotten there yet. I am paraphrasing what he said. So
Yeah, I would agree with your list is significant. I think that's a positive direction for the city right now. I will say that I would advocate for, I don't know the exact dollar amount, but to get, like our issues last week, if there's grants that are in the alignment that are going to be further along because we have them shovel ready and we have design ready, I would like to see some of these projects a little more specifically in the area that we see these grants maybe coming. I know there's a county grant coming up, a couple other stuff that we could line up so that, like we said, we're going to start putting money towards some of these projects, but as other thing comes up, we can actually adjust that money more appropriately. So I want to know the specific of every single one where the grant, obviously each department would be the professional. And so I'd like to see on the follow-up meeting if there are recommendations to grants that are lining up closer where, let's say, 300,000, I'm not sure how much we would need, but to get more of these projects in the design phase so the second something comes up, we're the first to jump at it with a more powerful ability to get that money back to us. I know that the previous council had tried to put a 1 cent sales tax forth. I will say I would have agreed with it. I spoke to it. The one thing I did not agree about it is that it was going to the general fund and not specifically to infrastructure. Everything in this town, if you look at Station 1 down here, it's probably the microcosm, and the more that I've learned about our sewage lines, all of our water lines, our power lines, it's very, very indicative of the entire city. So I'm assuming we could look through the entire city if it was an inspection type capability for the whole city. We would probably see more issues along those lines. So I am an advocate for getting our infrastructure set after all these years and getting directed in that right direction. So I'll leave it there for right now.
Oh, I just want to add, I want to make sure that we do, I think we're going to be very fiscally responsible, and we're going to be able to find money, and going forward, we're going to come up with cooperative ways to co-op, to public-private, to do various things that maybe haven't been done before in the city. So what I want to see with whatever list we come up with is I'd like to see it expanded beyond the list of priorities to stay on the stage. That way, if we fund Fire Station 1, when we build a permanent fire station in a way that we end up with money left over, we create assets, which we're currently always working to create more assets. As we create those assets, we can actually push them forward to projects that need to get done, or to a project like the Hygeia roundabout, which at some point needs to get on the board. We can say, okay, we've been putting money aside for this. So I definitely want to make sure we have a list of, regardless of what ends up on the final list, a list of 10 more that are lined up. Not necessarily shovel-ready to Councilmember Schaefer's point, but definitely to the point where they are ready to step in, and we've got them prioritized, so we're not back here figuring out what that next step, what that next one is. When we open that money up, we can move right to it.
And to add to the Hygeia roundabout, I do believe that over the 23 years we've added, obviously, the 2 other roundabouts. So it's not that it's not going to be on there ever, but the fact of the matter is we have the 2 other roundabouts that have helped traffic calm Leucadia as it is, and like we talked about last week. So just jumping in there.
I definitely do agree with the at-grade crossings. I don't know how many times I sit there and same thing, look across, you're like, I feel bad for those people. They got to go all the way around, or they just, do it illegally. So that definitely makes a lot of sense to me to make that a priority. And you're right. Wouldn't it be great if that Leucadia flooding was gone? I mean, I can, as long as I can remember, it's been that way. So that would be something great if that could be something we could take care of. Just in this council. I mean, if I'm only have 2 years here, that would be something great. I could say we got rid of the flooding in Leucadia.
You might need to stay 10. But
Okay.
were you done? Yeah, and one of the things, I think of this, what I'm proposing is triage. It's how do we save the most future expense by investing in infrastructure that's kind of behind the times. So if I take pavement's classic. When pavement starts breaking down, it costs more to repair it. Flooding, the storm drains. The storm drains literally are collapsing. 2 years ago, we had 6 sinkholes, and it was $3.7 million to fix. Now, we may get 2.6 back, but it still costs several million, and we've had several million laid out there. But if we get these lined, then our sinkhole failure rate should drop. I did want to speak to one comment about water lines, sewer lines, and storm drains. They're actually very different entities here, right? Water lines and sewage lines are enterprise funds that 100% pay for their maintenance and their installation. We have very good master plans in place by the water district. Santagita Water District has a very good plan, video the lines all the time. They even measure the breakage per mile per year, and we're right up there, I would say world-class. Sewer lines, same way. Get videoed quite often, are maintained. You obviously do not want sewer lines breaking. Our storm drains, I think, and one of the items that I think staff put in here as a potential to fund was a storm drain master plan you saw in the presentation earlier. I do want to fund that, but in the grand scheme of things, I would rather spend $1 million this year on getting ahead on the relining and then work on the plan, on how we work on the plan later. I don't want to spend $500,000 on planning and nothing, or half of that, $500,000 again on storm drain repair. I'd rather just get to it, because I think we know what we got to do, and we probably have a good track record on where the bad parts are. But the whole idea is by fixing some of these infrastructure issues, where it's preventive maintenance, and it will avoid significant costs later. So it actually is the most fiscally prudent thing we can do. And that's why I'm advocating for the list of projects that I am. Anything else? Is this going to be a quick, any other budget things we need to talk about in the package that, or staff, do you have any additional, or are you looking for any area that you're looking for direction?
Mayor?
Yes.
We would like to address one other thing. So part of it is we obviously know we have a lot of expenditures, and we talk about revenue. Couple things that staff is currently looking at. Number one, we have embarked on a mitigation fee report to update that, to look at our mitigation fees, to see where they're at, and to possibly raise those. The other thing we're looking at is currently our development services fees and engineering fees. We do raise them by a CPI, but they're kind of all over the board. Some are at 30% or cost recovery, some are 40, some are 80. So we're going to have staff look at that as well, because again, those are costs specific to projects, to people. It's not necessarily the greater good or a social service. So we do want to take a look at what other ways that we can generate revenue here in the city. We obviously look at grants to try to offset. We want to look at, especially for possibly with the fire station, public-private partnerships, but we are undertaking those. So I wanted council to know that we're looking at other ways of, looking at revenue and what that could bring in. Because again, the more revenue we bring in, the more money we have for these critical projects that council wants to fund, and that we can make our residents' quality of life better. So just wanted to throw that out there as well.
And then, of course, I think we already talked about it, but the whatever the payment for PERS, obviously we need to program that into whatever the recommended would be. And I'm just looking back through the fire marshal. I'm good for. Fire chief, vehicle, I think we can probably do that, but we talked about the law enforcement, and I said 2, so that's double the number, double the first year. It'd be it'd be over 900,000. So
It's 1188 for that whole page is 1188.
yeah, well, we wouldn't be doing both the motorcycle and the traffic deputy. I would advocate for the traffic deputy with the car all year round, night and day. And I think go with the Traffic Commission recommendation for 2. When I looked back through the annual report, the ACFR, I think I pulled up number of deputies for traffic and whatnot. That's actually tracked in our ACFR, and it's been flat for, I want to say, 10 or 15 years. So it's been flat traffic deputies for a long time. And where's Scott? Did Scott take off? Oh, okay. Because I have some of his numbers in there. I looked at the same numbers, and I didn't get the same huge rise, but there's been about a 10%, 11% increase in full-time equivalent headcount at the city from about 2017 to now. It was in 3 years that we did 3%, 4%, and 4%. So, but not the numbers. He showed it going from 230, 235 up to 250, and I didn't think it went up that high, but I'll get with him and talk about it. Any other issues? Anything on, we want to go down the donut chart and take a look?
Sure.
And see if there's something that we missed. And I'll remind everybody, this is not in order of priority. This is in order of engineering timeline.
Yeah, and I think something important to note on all these too is, for example, the vehicle for the fire chief. I believe the plan is to purchase his vehicle, then take his current vehicle and recycle it or downcycle or whatever to the next somebody else in the department. So it's not as essentially on the books it is, but overall it will actually save us money in the long run. When we look at like a traffic deputy, we want to look at the money that traffic tickets bring in. We want to look at, when we look at, I know Scott's chart had employees on it. When we look at employees, we want to look at what the trade-off of the employee is. What do we save on a consultant? What are the mitigation fees that employee might bring in? The pieces of that take the expense away. Those are things that we're doing. I don't know if they've been done in the past. I know we're going to do them going forward. I think that's an important thing for the public to know, and I think that's an important thing for us to set as a goal up here in this budget process.
Yeah, but I think at this time, we're not proposing any full-time headcount increase. Right, yeah.
Just proposing as our philosophy is going forward.
Understood. So I don't know that we need to spend a whole lot of time on the ones that are funded and in construction. So Q, E, and S, parking lot repair, we will talk about. So that one, I don't think we need to talk about here. Santa Fe Drive, I think that's going to be is Santa Fe Drive done to the point where we are in the 2-month evaluation period?
We are getting close. Jill Bankston, would you like to give an update?
Yes, we're in the very home stretch, so our RFB should be functional next week. And then we have a little punch list stuff we're working on, and we're tentatively scheduling the community feedback meeting for the very end of April, April 30th.
There's no meeting.
We might want to push that, just so we get the full
Yeah.
2 months.
Sure.
But when is school out? To me, that's the important thing. I want the 2 months to be during school. Last day of school, we can,
Very end of May is when school is out, I think May 30.
okay. So maybe mid-May, something like that would be better.
Okay.
But we want to have enough time that people can get used to it, that we see what the problems are. Everybody, bring your video cameras, take pictures of good and bad, not just negative. We want to see it's safer. We want to see why it's safer. We want to see why it doesn't flow. We want to make sure emergency vehicle, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. Temporary Fire Station 1, I think we put on the list, question of how much it'll be. Orpheus Park, Glen Park replacement are all in construction or starting construction funded all the way down to, see, the protected intersection at El Camino Real and Santa Fe. We funded that. And is there a grant opportunity there?
So on this one, yes, we actually did fund that. However, we did get an HSIP grant. We actually went ahead and we daylighted that to council during briefings this week. So if we have that grant, there's a match. It's not much. So yes, we would actually save that money.
And that would come back
Then that's general fund.
allocated down the list.
Yes.
Cool. So there may be, and that number was probably more than $500,000?
We had 800
Okay.
for that. So
But there's a
yes.
match, we have to take the match off.
The match is 10%. So Jill, what is it? It's about 100
There's the
or so.
retirement fund. There's the
No, that could be one of these other projects down the way here, such as, ADA parking lot at Glen Park under construction. So moving T is the first one that's not funded, beach staircase. So I'm just looking for any comments of direction.
Well, again, it goes back to what we talked about. If this is, get the design completed, and so that if there is a grant or something of that nature because of its location, obviously all of our staircases being, of natural interest, of state interest, of national interest as well. So there's a lot of different interest groups out there that would, these types of things that if they're ready, there might be opportunities, especially in this near future. So if there's a little bit that would get that thing shovel ready, this is a little further along.
Well, and I think it's on track for the funding for shovel-ready design is in place. That's the donut as opposed to the filled green. And so
What's delaying the filled green, I guess? Is it a funding thing or is it?
No. That means it's funded for design. So the middle column of the three
Yeah, I see
colored
it, yeah.
columns, the open circle means the design is not done, but it's been funded
Got it.
to get it done. It's a matter of time to get there. And there was another beach staircase I think the city manager mentioned. Which one was that?
That's
potentially?
Swami's. So yeah,
Easy Street.
Grandview was earlier, and Swami's was the one that was the 550 that would be programmed for next
It's
year.
at the bottom
But then
of
you
the
said
list.
D Street as well, correct?
At D Street, we will be looking at D Street as well.
Is Swami's on this list? Or
Yeah,
is
it's
it
the
already?
bottom, second from the bottom.
Oh, there it is. Thank you.
So my question on the staircases, are we talking safety issue or are we talking aesthetic.
Sure. So what we do is every 5 years we do beach stair audits, and it basically gives you the condition of the stairs. So I remember when we did Grandview, it rated as fair, so it's mechanical. They look at everything from the nuts, the bolts, the planks. So it is structural. It is not aesthetic. Yes.
So in my mind, that's something that's almost non-negotiable for, yeah. So those two may end up being up there with basic infrastructure.
Real quick, why are the 6, the vanilla color, are those the?
We went ahead and highlighted those as those are projects we've heard council previously talk about. So we just kind of wanted to highlight that we have been listening and we've heard those projects come up a couple times.
Got it.
The next one on this pedestrian crossing is actually been approved, and I've seen a design for it, so I think it's almost a done deal, sort of, right?
We did, yep, we got grant funding for that. There's a small match, but yes, again, that's another one that we got HSIP grant funding.
Which one was that now?
Solana Beach Crossing.
Okay, yeah.
So South Coast Highway 101 East Sidewalk, I think I've seen a design for that too as well. I'd like to send that to, before it even comes to the council at some point, to the Traffic Safety Commission. Mobility, traffic, whatever we end up calling it at this point.
That's already funded.
To look at that section. Yeah, to see what we can do with that money, because I think that is money that we can possibly use slightly differently than that if we need to.
No, so this was one of the projects as well with the HSIP. So we did receive a grant. If we didn't do it, we would not have the grant money. We would, of course, all of these have a 10% match, and that was about $1.9 million, if I recall, Jill, right?
Okay.
Yes.
So we'd save $186,000 if we did not go forward with that.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the 101 East Side sidewalk?
Yeah, I would put that way down on the list.
Really?
Yep.
I would, and I can go into deep explanation after the Traffic and Safety Mobility Commission looks at it.
Okay. I walked that last year or the year before, so.
The only person in town who walks it is a city icon. He is a gentleman who walks every morning. He picks up trash while he does it, and he's the only person that uses it.
I believe it.
And everybody loves him, and we need to have him up here one of these days and give him a proclamation, but that's a different topic for a different day.
Okay. The Leucadia Hygeia roundabout we talked about. What's the difference between W and X?
So we separated out the roundabout only and the PED improvements, because at one time we were looking at maybe sequencing it and doing the PED stuff first and then doing the roundabout. So that was the reason why last year we broke it into 2 lines.
So when you say PED, does that include the retaining wall work that would have to happen? The roundabout requires that grade change, significant grade change. It requires, pretty sizable retaining walls. How do you do the PED improvement next to the retaining wall without doing the retaining wall? That kind of means you have to grade the road too. I don't know how you separate them.
Matt's going to come up and let us know.
It's magic, right? Engineering magic.
So for the pedestrian sidewalk, that's from Fulvia up to Hymettus on the south side. So that's away from where the roundabout is, specifically at the intersection. So that section of sidewalk is what we're saying is the $820,000. So for the roundabout, because it's not next to the intersection.
Okay, so essentially the missing sidewalk on Leucadia Boulevard on the south side, Fulvia. Okay, got it.
Correct.
Thank you. Let's see, and then North Coast Highway 101 drainage improvements, Basil to Jupiter, and I always think of these as each section being associated with one of the 3 streetscape segments. And as I went through I've been talking to people about how do we get segment B funded for streetscape, and how do we get segment B funded for the 60-inch pipe beneath it, and you can do one and then the other, right? And obviously, if you do the top layer, it doesn't make sense if you don't do the buried stuff. But if you do the buried stuff, you're digging up at least half the right-of-way above it, and you have to rebuild it. So in my mind, streetscape and the 60-inch pipe are going to be inseparable if we want to be efficient. Otherwise, I think we have to do the pipe first and then the other, but we're going to waste some money with doing some minimal reconstruction on top. So that's a big, big, big ticket item. Looking at, and I'm just talking segment B right now. We're probably on the order, 14 million for the pipe and 20 million for 22 million, 25 million for streetscape, segment B.
So we've got 13 million for streetscape segment B. It's that line Z there.
Okay.
Plus the drainage, so plus that 14 million.
So it's actually not as bad as what I thought. So is that because there's already sidewalks and some?
It's the entirety of segment B already has sidewalks, so then there'd be kind of a decision to make whether we tear them all out and make them wide like we're doing north and south of it, or do we kind of reduce the scope a little bit and move forward in a different direction.
And what does the number here assume? Does it assume wide sidewalks or?
Wide sidewalks, yep.
Okay. And any idea what the difference would be?
We haven't looked at that yet.
Okay.
$1 million.
So I don't know if we need any questions about streetscape
So
cost and funding.
I definitely would like to sit down and go over budgeting for streetscape overall at this point at a separate time, separate meeting.
Yeah. I think you're
I
right.
think it's a much more complicated piece to look at rather than just kind of flat out in a list like this.
And then couple it with the drainage, because I think we have to figure out our game plan. That's why I like the Vulcan South segment. It's kind of its own segment. It does a lot to offload this segment, this portion of Leucadia west of the train tracks.
Right.
It'll offload that drainage. So I think it's a win-win, and Tom Ryan agrees.
And
So-
I also think there's a lot we can learn from what we've done in that streetscape to adjust what I see on the design there for safety purposes, for financial purposes. There may be some things in there we don't need, and we can take some of that money that we're putting on the top of the street and put it down below.
Okay. So that may be something to agendize in an upcoming meeting.
The next one on the list is Birmingham Drive, Complete Streets. I believe that's the Birmingham Drive streetscape, right? With us resealing and re-striping Birmingham, I don't see that as 2025-26 or even 2027 event unless something comes to take that price tag off or cover that price tag for us. Or if the residents of Cardiff find a high demand or safety calls for it at this point. So I would not put that on the 25-26 calendar.
I know Deputy Mayor Lyons is not here today, and I think just to help voice her opinion, she would have a different opinion. She would want that right up there. So
We had a
need to, and she's not here, so I thought I'm throwing it out there because I know she would say it immediately.
I would guess that if Cardiff were looking, they would be more interested in the Verde pedestrian undercrossing than they are Birmingham at this point, based on my own personal reviews with their residents and their town council and that aspect. But that's off of what I've been informed. And I think we have a stronger chance down the road of securing a grant for Verde pedestrian undercrossing than the Birmingham streetscape.
Fair enough. Moving down to the quiet zone and at-grade rail, I think we've talked about it from pretty high priority.
Correct.
Yeah, for me, it's a phased approach, and it's a must include in the budget down the road. Figuring out where we can get some money put aside for it. Public and safety and infrastructure are what I can tell your list focuses on. I think mine focuses on the same thing, as I'm sure both of our other council members prioritize those two options. And to me, the quiet zone and the at-rail crossings are huge. And if we're talking about streetscape, the crossings are paramount to success for their. We want the residents to be able to walk down, walk across the street, frequent the businesses, support them, and so the upside of that is going to be potentially pretty high. So between safety and functionality, I think those two need to stay on there.
Yep.
To include parking, now you can have all that parking on the east side where a lot of people wouldn't even go to Leucadia or La Costa. They would just park on the east side. I know quite a few times surfing, the same thing. People they would use it on the east side, walk up to Grandview, Birmingham. It just makes it that much quicker for people to, and it enhances the parking that we're lacking on 101.
see the Lake Drive storm drain replacement, and this is not the Lake Drive portion, it's the canyon below it. There's a temporary, although it's a pretty nice temporary, buried plastic? Is it plastic? Yeah. And it even connected all the laterals down, coming down there. So any idea what kind of life we'll get out of that?
Our consultant said 5 or so years would be a good useful life on that pipe. So
Even when it's nicely buried, or?
yeah, so it's there's a lot of forces on it. It's a really steep pipe,
Yeah.
and it's plastic and just kind of anchored into the ground. So you want to ultimately put a permanent solution in there.
Yeah, when former Mayor Krantz and I hiked down that canyon before it was repaired, you could see how the water had come down the 150-foot hill and just hammered the joints open by huge gaps, several different places. And you could see how, as the old failed system clogged, the standpipes became gushers. And there was a rock that big jammed on the inside of the riser. It wasn't a riser, it was an inlet before the dirt all swept away. But the forces going through those pipes are incredible on those slopes.
So my take on that is that I hear engineering saying we've got a few years on that. Obviously, we have to plan ahead. We can't wait till last year to fix it. But I would like to see the outcome of what happens when landslides start happening in Southern California, up at Palisades after it rains, and see what type of federal money starts pouring down in grant opportunities, which I believe will happen. The money's got to go somewhere. It's not going to all the places it traditionally goes. And I think public safety is going to be one of those places where they put it, and landslides will be something they'll be interested in supporting. I'm speculating, but I think if we've got the time, it's a good one to sit on to actually see if we can get the federal government to pay for it, or the state, if the state comes together with the money. But I do think that this is going to be an area that, coming out of Pacific Palisades and other areas of the state where they've had these types of issues, we're going to see them address runoff, because I think runoff is going to be a massive problem for these places.
By the way, one of the advantages of putting in the temporary was it cost us $800,000, just $900,000, somewhere in there. But we were spending, on a typical year, $250,000 just cleaning out the sediment that was flowing down towards Manchester and into there was a sedimentation basin down there. We'd have to get large trucks and dig it out all the time. Plus, we had some flooding losses downstream. So this is preventative for at least the next 5 years, and it was a good use of money. I think we'll end up saving that money operationally. See, La Costa Avenue Ped Path, I think we talked about, $1.2 million, and that'd be a huge improvement. I do have one picture when, again, former Mayor Krantz and I were out there walking. I had a couple of pictures, actually, of pedestrians walking in the bike lane and almost that close to the traffic lane, because there is no ped path. And this is a matter of I would call this ped path light, because it's really a DG. It's mostly trimming vegetation, putting in a path, and I think taking out, there's one retaining wall, small retaining wall that's in the right of way. But all in all, this would be a huge improvement and give walking access to many neighborhoods in North Leucadia all the way to the beach, safe access. So,
Correct. And just a quick question about that one specifically is just the residents nearby went out and cleared out quite a bit of their own at least on the south side.
Yeah.
Is this the south side that we're talking about, correct?
South side.
Correct. So I'm just wondering where the $1.2 million comes from for the amount of work that was done by residents. What it would take for a Bobcat? Again, I'm just asking to be more prudent on it.
Yeah.
Why so much for DG and for what would take basically a Bobcat half a day?
I'm happy to go out and walk it again with you.
I've walked it. I've ridden it. I've driven it.
Okay,
I've done it all.
there's
not much you can do there that I haven't already done there.
Okay, good. I did see enough places where there was more than just trimming bushes. It was, putting a DG in, and there just quite a few places in there. But 1.2, we'll have to look at the actual contract
Yeah.
of what the statement of work is.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I don't-
maybe it's 800,000. Yeah, we don't know. Maybe it's 1.5 also, with the way rates have been going.
Inflation.
Okay. Trail 82, I think we've talked about it. We
last
talked
week.
about it last week. Same. I think it's a very similar situation here. Safety and mobility improvements in the vicinity. We just talked about this, and that's multiple projects, right? Multiple small projects if we choose to move forward with them. I don't know how, is this one item on the capital chart, or is this really a series of items?
So we can separate it into multiple items moving forward if you'd like, but this chart was just taking last year's and moving it forward a year.
I would recommend separating it out.
We can do
Because I
that.
think it means a lot more to us, and we may find opportunistic ways. I have no way of getting a grant for this, but I do have a way to get a grant for, if I know what project it is and I can get it far enough down the line for a reasonable price, we can then get grant money or fund it ourselves directly. Sanalijo Bridge rehabilitation. So that's a grant?
Yes.
That,
Yes, so that's through the Federal Highway Bridge Program. So we applied to the program probably 3 or 4 years ago, and you kind of get on the Caltrans waiting list, and as they fund projects, we move up. And so October this year is when we expect to actually make it on the list and to be able to request funding to start our preliminary studies.
Awesome.
good. La Costa Avenue improvements, and how does that differ from La Costa Ped Path?
Yes, so this was a very old project. It dates back to 2011. Those are the 2 digits you see in the project number. And this was an account that was set up to cost share in making circulation improvements to La Costa in partnership with the city of Carlsbad. The concept there was a 4-lane La Costa, and it was in response to the ponto developments that were going in the city of Carlsbad. We've since completely defunded this project, so there's no more money at all in this project. So if you wanted to resurrect it, it would need new money.
Okay, is there a reason we keep it on the list?
Nope, this is your opportunity to say, hey, remove this project, and then it won't show up the next
I
time
would
we're back.
recommend removing it.
I agree.
We defunded it, previous council defunded it, and this was a outgrowth of a lawsuit, if I recall correctly. Yeah. So I don't even know what it entails other than 4 lanes on La Costa, and I'm not for that. Anybody else? Can we take it off? Just nod yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we got a consensus there.
Did we skip the Vulcan Ped Path?
Oh, did I?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for-
sorry about that. Vulcan Ped Path.
Well, I think this is a good, it definitely needs to happen. I'm not sure what level. Again, looking at the price for some DG, no big deal, on La Costa. But to get the at-grade crossings, if we were to put money towards that, this is kind of one of those things that's kind of hand in hand that needs to, what comes first, chicken or egg? Well, like you talked about with the more vanity projects at the streetscape model versus the piping, this is kind of one of the same. Let's get the Lucadia at-grade crossing started, and as we see that starting to come, there's going to be a reason to not tear it up before we get it started and get it kind of going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think we talked about that last meeting. We talked about putting a temporary path in. That's, we'll call it Ped Path Light.
Yeah.
Until we get to the
Final done.
the crossings, so that we're not undoing something expensive, to your point, and redoing it. So yeah, that is in line to be, that
Same with
is what we all
flooding.
agreed upon, yeah.
Flooding could have a similar impact on this when we go to solve some of the Jason Street or what's the further north?
Hillcrest.
No,
area.
Cove.
Coral Cove.
Coral Cove.
Yeah.
Yeah. That, and there are a couple other places where as we solve those through some regrading by the NCTD and/or we may need to add some dirt. So I like calling this, I'd love to change the name of this one to Vulcan Ped Path light, just like Councilmember Schaefer said, or O'Hara said. And then think of it that way, as a DG path, minimal change, get people off the road and hiking on that. It won't be yet as pretty as Cardiff's rail trail. So, but the idea is to have some connectivity, get people using it. It'll be much, much safer.
Maybe we could name it Dave's Rock Garden 2.
So to make this, to make that ped path, it needs to be ADA compliant. So in order to make it ADA compliant, that's the full dollar value you see here.
Okay.
So there had been some talk before about getting it shovel ready. So to fund the design, we're estimating about $175K
But that's for the full project too, right?
for the full
design.
ADA compliant, ped path.
178.
Cardiff's had some cooperation from other agencies, as I understand it, if I remember. It's been a while.
Yeah,
But Cardiff had some cooperation, other agencies or grant funding that helped put that path there, if I remember correctly. Is that, am I
Sandag funded the coastal rail trail. Is
Yes.
that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes. So, and then Sandag has teed up the next section of coastal rail trail to be from the Swami's undercrossing or Santa Fe up to the parking lot at F Street. And that had been in the budget to move forward, but it has since fallen out of their budget to move forward. So we'll need to kind of revisit and see. But they've been the one that have been putting together the design and then moving those full coastal rail trail to construction.
And then, just since we're on the subject, does that mean the sidewalk from Paul Ecke to Encinitas Boulevard, is that ADA compliant?
It is not. There's
Okay.
an interesting history behind that one.
Oh, I know. I just wanted to, I'm trying to think through this project and ways we can do it affordably to get it going, and then with the big picture of making it the dream to get from A to B. So that B is really good. Okay, that's good to know. Can I move to the next one?
Yeah, I think KK.
So Leucadia Watershed Master Plan. I pulled this out. I looked at it at $32 million as one item. Like, well, let's be real. It's never going to happen, right? Because we're never going to have $32 million to put on one project unless we get a massive influx of revenue.
Right.
So is there a way, and looking at it, I've kind of felt like there was, is there a way to break this down into segments or phases or anything like that, that we can make this a bunch of $5 million projects or something like that? Because I think that would serve us and allow us the ability up here over the next few years to start to implement that plan and put it as a realistic priority on here. Right? And I think at $32 million, it's never going to be a...
Yeah, and I think that's what I recommended earlier with the $5 million towards Vulcan South. Vulcan South is part of this. There's Vulcan North, that's $21 million, and we could probably even break that down into the main pipe and then one or two laterals as we move forward each year with. So yeah, I would love to see essentially the Q3 recommendation broken down into a phased approach where 10-year project with various steps in there. And we can, as we get subsections shovel ready, we can go for various clean water. There are many grants we can go for with the flood mitigation. There are just many grants we'll be able, but get it down into manageable chunks, because the total number, if I include all the pipe under 101, which I assume is not in here, yeah, okay, it's 51 million is what we said, although we probably paid down some of that with the segment C pipe that we found essentially 7 million for.
Is this also one of the reasons you were asking about the total debt capacity? If there was a
Yeah,
chance?
it was
This would
this
be-
and actually fire stations more than that.
Got it.
Because I wanted to understand if I had enough to buy land for Station 6 sometime in the next 2-3 years, that could be very important.
Got it.
And then funding Station 6 or reusing the temporary structures from Station 1, which would mean I'd have to rebuild Station 1 first. So I was trying to understand how much capacity we had there for fire stations, actually, more than I was thinking this yet.
I would, like Jim said, with what's gone on in LA, I'm assuming that there's going to be some new money that's going to be coming into light in the next couple of months, if not year. as things fall out from that. So I think it'd be worthwhile. And then I know Station 6 is currently being rented from the Riva family. Is that something that we could do again instead of that big one-time chunk up front? Is either a lease to buy or some kind of option?
Something like that, yeah.
Where we can save that money. Okay.
So let's see, Lucadia Boulevard I-5 bridge repair.
That's the bridge railing, so a couple of people have brought some pictures in and showed that.
Is there not an estimate for that at all?
I think we estimated around $350,000 for that one. But we haven't done any design. We still need to kind of go out there, figure out exactly what the volume is and what needs to happen. So that's a
And
guess.
so if it's the railing, if it's the outside of the railing, Caltrans owns it, do we own the inside of the railing? How does that work?
So according to Caltrans, we own both sides of the railing. Yes.
They want us working above moving traffic?
Well, they further clarified that the only damage is on the inside of the railing. So we don't have any work to do on the outside, which is good news for us.
Yeah.
But there was an effort before by the past council to see if we could get Caltrans to take on those repairs, and we haven't had any success in that.
Okay.
Follow-on question, is that something that needs to be completely redone, or is that something that we could, I'm not going to say patch, but something that we could patch for quite a bit cheaper?
So the 350 would be the patching.
Okay.
So, yes.
That is the cheaper.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Because you got to clean off the rusted rebar, and you might have to replace rebar with epoxy-coated rebar. There's
Awesome.
some
Thank
steps
you.
in there.
Let's see, we talked a little bit about Swami's Beach staircase. I think we consider that basic infrastructure. I think is what I heard up there, everybody saying, yeah. And then the Orpheus Park Paul Eckie Central Bike Project, is that, I assume that's the staircase making a bike path down there between the two, more connectivity to get people to walk and ride to Paul Eckie?
That's correct. And we've kind of put a pause on that as they look to redevelop the Paul Eckie Central. There may be a different connection point or
Correct. I was going to say that. Thank you.
Okay. Any idea what the cost on our portion would be through the park down to the base of the hill?
Oh, it's about $1 million.
Okay. Okay. And are there any projects that should be on here that aren't on here for this fiscal year? I could throw Station 6 in here, but I think it's premature. It maybe the land, but
No, not that I can think of this time.
okay.
Well, yeah,
Just think about it, and I'm sure we'll get ideas from people listening tonight, too.
I definitely want to look at, like we've heard before at Budget meetings, Clark and Union are going to be needing some upgrades regarding safety because of that development going in. I would definitely like to see Clark and Union included on here. I think we're actually meeting with residents and whether it's design funds that are on here for this year. The goal is to have those adjustments underway, ideally finished, but underway, and in the pipe before the project is completed. So some sort of design, at least for this year, to get that funded so we can start moving in that direction. I would like to see that put on here to let them know that that is coming. I don't see, because I always hear it's going to cost money. I don't see re-engineering of Encinitas Boulevard on here traffic-wise. And I think that is paramount to the challenges of getting around this city. With the massive amount of development that is going to come through D2, we need to look at that and really address it. And there's some heavy adjustments that need to be made that we probably can't do right now, but if we can upgrade it to a better position for the residents using it, accessibility to get through and clearly communicate how to do that for them, I think that is something we need to do for those residents. Anyone who likes to get to the beach from East Encinitas, east of the 5, currently my house is a mile from Moonlight Beach and it takes me 30 minutes to get there. So I'm going to push for that to be on the list in some regard. We can figure out what the cost is and what we have to do for that. I think that's an important measure.
And there's some grant money that we just got for widening, instead of doing some of the lanes, we were going to widen in multiple sections.
We have a great grant coming forward. The HSIP grant that will help address Encinitas Boulevard is fantastic for creating more flow.
Follow on that, yeah.
But it will not fix the getting stuck at a stoplight. And that ultimately is what makes that slow.
Correct.
You sit at a green light and you watch the light in the distance stay red, then your light goes red, you don't make it through. The light in front of you goes green, it empties out, it sits empty. The next light, then by the time your light turns green, you pull up to a red light and you sit and wait again. We got to fix that.
Been there, done that.
Yep.
Yeah, really, I think we all have. I think probably most of the audience, too.
Yeah.
For
We're
sure. And
frustrated with it.
and that, to my
Okay.
point, that's why it needs to be on here.
Okay.
And this is not for this year, but there's, and talking with Nick Buck and in the bike safety, it's one of those things I'd want to get on here is to have a bike specific path through our town that basically from the east side of Gagno to the parks, the schools, and the beaches. That's the primary location. It's not necessarily to create anything. There might be sections, maybe near In and Out for Queza to get people across type thing. But the real meat of the matter is to separate as much as possible, in my opinion. Cars and bikes when and where able for a safe route to school a safe route to the beach.
And I think that, excuse me, let me hop in, because this may be one of the items that we talked about last week, I think, was when we adopted the MAP, MAP, we agreed that we'd bring it back within a year. It didn't come back. So we have an opportunity. We could look at the MAP, the Active Transportation Plan, and the Trails Master Plan and try and get it more cohesive and fold in this idea into those plans, and then that'll drive funding.
I'd like to propose a subcommittee, Councilmember Schaefer and myself, to look at and do some outreach with the schools, the various commissions, and start in this year. So this wouldn't go in budget till next year, I don't think. But start working on a solution that is a suggestion of a bike route that travels across the city that we can connect the dots on.
Thank you, Councilmember O'Hara. That is actually not agendized, though, for tonight. So if that is something that you want to do, we can do a council-initiated item and put that on, and then to form that subcommittee.
Yep. Yeah, we're in a budget meeting here. You can propose money for that.
I don't think it's a budget item for this year as part of that, and that's why I want to move forward with that.
But I think the planning step is what you're saying is.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think I was saying the same thing. It could be an outgrowth of what I just described when we bring the MAP back, so.
I'd like to add, if there's any possible way that we can get Fire Station 6 on there, I really do think that's important. I mean, we don't ask for a lot. We didn't ask for a lot. There's nothing a lot in here for District 4, but the fire load that we have, I feel like it is such a danger. If anything happens out there, it's coming towards the coast. So
Can I put a slight modification to it?
Sure.
Fire Station 6, location, temporary building, and engine.
Yes.
That's one.
Three-man
And
crew.
then sometime in the future, I think we put Fire Station 6, permanent structure in there.
Yes.
But for now, I would, it's the engine is almost as important as the
100%.
temporary building. Yeah.
perfect.
Okay, anything else? We've got, you got 8 minutes to eat some dinner before we have to be back here, if there's nothing else.
I just want to apologize for my tardiness. We had a death in my family today.
No, I'm sorry to hear that.
So, but I apologize to the public for not being here.
No problem. Family comes first. So, okay, with that, any comments from city manager or staff?
No, just want to thank all the work of our finance staff and all the departments for putting together the O&M and the capital. And we will be back here on April 23rd for our second budget workshop. So thank you.
Very good. We are adjourned and we'll reconvene for the regular meeting at, let's say 6:05.